One of your newest fans. I was up all night listening to you. So you've been together for about 5 years or so, is that?
Even a bit more.
Yeah,
maybe
longer than
around
that.
6.
Okay, and what's the story behind your name? I think I know, but I want to hear.
The story behind the name is that it's a Joni Mitchell record, and we needed a name for our band, basically, after booking our first gig in a bar in Montreal. So I just looked through my record collection. We all have big vinyl collections, and just fell upon this Joni Mitchell record. And the song really talks about women and the sort of their place in the sort of late 60s and 70s California music scene, which pretty much related to our sound very
Nice.
well.
Awesome. And only one of you is actually from Montreal, born and raised Montreal.
I was born in Montreal, not raised there.
No?
Raised an hour away, but
Oh, okay. But you all met in Montreal, right?
Yes.
So how did the band form? How did that happen? You were from all over.
well, as glamorous as it is, we all met in a bar.
Nice.
And we were all hanging out in the music scene. There were 3 of us that were hanging out at this one bar that she used to work at. We used to drive her crazy. And eventually we won her over.
After I kicked them out.
Yeah, she cooked us out once or twice.
I think that answers kind of my next question. You have an awesome quote in your bio: "Tumultuous musical romance that wouldn't die if you locked it up and threw away the key." Is that you in a nutshell? Is it your musical relationship together? And
Musical, personal, I mean everything.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty always a rocky road for us with I think we're all people who have very high highs, very low lows, and everything in the middle is always very colorful too. So, but after almost, I guess we're like over 6 years, we're still going and we still love it, and it kind of gets better. So
It's far more than 6 years.
is it? I have no concept of time whatsoever.
Well, we've known each other for longer than
Right.
in the beginning we played music together and we started this band, but not in, I think it came out of a place of having a great time and wanting to make a little bit of extra money on the side. And then when we saw the reaction of people and that they really started to enjoy it, I think we really invested a lot more into what we were doing. We were always passionate about it. It was always fun, but I think that for me, it didn't really become this idea of I could really do this as a career until I really saw a crowd reaction to what we did.
right. And I read, I don't know if this is true, after you were nominated for a CCMA, you were all background singers for Broken Social Scene. Is that true? Or how?
Yeah, that was
How did that
it was an impromptu thing. That kind of happens a
Oh.
lot. Like every time we go to a festival, and we have lots of friends in bands, and we're very social creatures.
I see.
And then,
Okay.
every time basically we show up at a festival, everyone always goes like, "Hey, a built-in like amazing group of background singers. Do you want to come and like do a song with us?" And we always say yes. So that was probably one of the highlights of one of those kind of
cool.
experience.
Awesome. And I know it's 2014, but you
Is
are powerhouse band of women. Do you still, as women do you still face struggles being in a band, an all-women band this year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think that it's still difficult to be taken seriously on some fronts. Although, on the other hand, some of our biggest supporters are our male contemporaries. They're the ones that fight for us, and they're like, "No, these girls are awesome. You got to give them a chance." But you're met with a little bit of stubbornness within the industry of "Oh, they're chicks. I mean, can they really play their instruments? Can they really do this?"
There was like a Twitter thing. Someone said like, women shouldn't be in rock bands or whatever. We're like, that's not even a thing. You can't say that.
Did you respond?
We didn't, but our
No.
fans did. We just let our fans respond, and they because they were pretty angry, especially a lot of the
Well, yeah.
female either musicians or just fans of music were not upset, not really happy with that.
Right.
I think that Hart and Fleetwood Mac would disagree when
Yeah.
the Runaways and
Yeah, for sure. Newest single, that's Let's Take the Night, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you posted a lyrics video on Facebook saying study the lyrics, so I did. They're awesome. What's the song about? How did it come about?
That's a song that I wrote about how I met my boyfriend. We're not actually married, but I call him my husband all the time because
Living in sin.
living in sin, enjoying every minute of it. I was working as a bartender at a bar, and I had so many guys come up to you in the same way all the time of like, hey, what are you doing later? And
Charming.
I really got very tired of the way that men approached me all the time. So when I met my husband, he was the first guy that actually was like, oh, hi, how are you? And we talked, and there was no lewd, weird, inappropriate comments. It was, I'd really love to take you out on a date. Can I take you out for dinner? It was such a refreshing, how it really should be, instead of just hooking up and starting a relationship based on a hookup and then building things on a false sense of intimacy from moving things too quickly. So I wrote the song about him and about how we met and how it's kind of a little bit of a love song, but sort of a dig at everybody that still tries to pick you up.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that happened, because that's a great song. And just last thing, what's up next for you? You're finishing the tour with the Bare Naked Ladies. Are you doing the whole?
We're doing the
finish-
Canadian tour.
Yeah,
Okay.
finishing all
Yeah.
the Canadian dates. And then I think just taking a very short break, and then we're heading into summer, so festivals and basically seeing the whole country again. I think we like to see all of Canada at least 4 times a year.